And the last entrepreneur, his name is Conor McLaughlin. He is a first-year aeronautics student, and he is going to pitch to you his startup, which is called Route Reports.
Hi, I'm Connell, and I'm going to tell you how Route Reports is revolutionizing the UK transport industry through combining the Internet of Things and machine learning. Route Reports makes it quicker, better, and easier for transport companies to solve costly problems by embracing our state-of-the-art hardware and software. With Route Reports, transport companies are able to beat their competition and save money like never before. Transport companies across the UK are often frustrated with problems that can't be solved and questions that can't be answered with existing technology. Currently, they have to rely only on guesswork and vague driver reports in order to make sure that they run their services effectively. This problem, this lack of knowledge, is costing the UK transport industry over £100 million every year. For example, buses often come into contact with potholes and overhanging branches across their daily routes. The branches break windscreens and the potholes cause extensive damage to suspension. Currently, all the bus industry can do is rely on vague driver reports about where these hazards are, and it's something that either is very inaccurate or just gets ignored. And problems like this are seen all across the transport industry. Vehicles will break down while in service randomly. There's far too much reliance on the driver to make sure that the service is running, and also passenger information, as I'm sure you'll know, is either inaccurate or non-existent. Route Reports solves all of these issues. With our sensors, online dashboard, and APIs, we're already saving bus and train companies time, money, and allowing them to offer a much better experience to their passengers. With Route Reports, vehicles break down less, vital infrastructure is monitored both live and automatically, and passengers are kept informed like never before. For example, we recently completed a project with Reading Buses and a bus company in Yorkshire monitoring potholes and overhanging branches across a city. As you can see, with sensors just like that one, we automatically detected over 1,200 branches and 400 potholes and over 100,000 data points. We then take that data and we automatically generate a heat map, as you'll see there, which shows you hotspots all across the city of where the worst potholes and branches lie. This data, with just one click, is then forwarded on to the local authorities. They can go out, fix the hazards more effectively than ever before, and they know exactly which ones are the worst, so they can more effectively use their budget. We're also using similar machine learning technology to monitor the bus's mechanical systems. We monitor batteries, tires, and doors, and we're able to tell technicians when the buses are about to break down before they actually do. This is a completely new approach to problem solving in the transport industry, and Route Reports is the company that's pioneering it. To ensure we have the edge, we have developed completely custom hardware and software. Installed by the bus companies themselves, our product is the quickest and easiest to fit on the market. Once installed, online setup is completely automatic. These features are unheard of in the transport industry, and it's one of the reasons we've made such a big impact so quickly. And it's not just our hardware that's making us so popular. Our online dashboard is a breakthrough for the transport industry. We're using the state-of-the-art in data visualization and analysis, and it's a far cry from the current industry standard of clunky and outdated web pages just full of raw data that doesn't make any sense. We're already in bus companies across the UK, in both Reading and Yorkshire, and we're in discussions for trials in Ireland, Southampton, Oxford, and with major industry players such as First Group and Arriva. We have the possibility of fitting over 100 buses in the next 6 months, and this would result in a 6-figure turnover. And we're not just on buses. We've recently completed, or we are completing, a paid proof of concept with one of the biggest names in tech, one of the UK's largest train companies. We're developing state-of-the-art sensors that are potentially going to be fitted to 4,000 of the UK's train fleet, resulting in a potential revenue of over $750,000 in the next 1 to 2 years. Route Reports began as a school project back in Ireland and has since then spread to Reading buses. We've been on a bus since over a year ago, and we've developed several prototypes since. We've introduced several exciting new features, got paying customers, and even started solving issues on trains. The rapid growth of the company has been due to the massive potential of putting custom Internet of Things devices on vehicles and then generating rich data. Then using this data with our artificial intelligence capabilities in order to give our customers industry-leading insights. Route Reports needs to raise $100,000 for 10% of the company. This money is used to secure our first mass production run of devices, and to build our stock levels in order to exploit our early lead in the very limited time available. We're also going to acquire engineers in order to expand our engineering capability and to ensure that our product stays as the industry leader. Your money will allow Root Reports to attain our goal of getting major transport providers across the UK and spreading our product across their fleets nationwide. Your investment will also allow for a revolutionary new way of solving problems in the transport and infrastructure industries and ensure that Root Reports is the company that's leading the way.
So, Connell is precisely half my age, I just want to say. Hardware, firmware, software, web dashboards, machine learning, deals. I mean, Chris, it's impressive, isn't it?
Get the microphone. Actually, I'm looking at, this is the hardware, apparently. I don't know if you can see that. And then we can all see the little heat map dashboard. And as it happens...
Oh, yes, sorry, I have a demo to give you. I actually just forgot. So,
demo.
Yes. This bit's pretty magic. So we can we analyze all the branches based on the speed the bus hit them at, and we can also tell how hard it hit a branch or pothole. So that's pretty cool. But you might want to double check that it's actually a branch or pothole. You know, could have been a bird, who knows. So what we do is we give you a Google Street View image of exactly where the bus was. So this is the bit where you actually realize that it's the complete fusion between hardware and software. So we're here on a road, and if we look up, we should be able to see there's a branch right there. So you know that that's exactly where the bus hit the branch. And that's a much better way, instead of relying on weeks of paperwork and unnecessary inspections by the bus company and their drivers, and we're turned it into something that just takes one click. That's completely automatic.
So one question I have, because I mean, I guess that, you know, I suppose there's two things really. One thing is a sort of obsolescence question. So it's more about, you know, you mentioned that your product monitors the doors and so on and so forth, but one imagines that at some point in time the bus manufacturer will do that sort of thing for themselves, and so then they no longer need your product. Your product looks like a kind of updating kind of product. Well, that's one question anyway. And then the other question is, you know, how would you see this expanding either internationally or into other sort of market segments? So you went from buses to trains, but you're still in transport, and I don't see too much else there. So maybe it is international is the right way to go. I don't know.
Yes, those are both very good questions. To answer your first point about when the bus manufacturer just put it in, bus companies don't all have the same manufacturer of bus. They have several different. That means they'll have a different dashboard for all the different mix of bus they have. All their buses are different.
Well, it could be but I think I would imagine it could be your dashboard, but their sensors.
Exactly. So the point with our company, the idea for the growth in the bus industry is that, as happened with other technology in buses, is that we then sell it to the manufacturer themselves, and it just becomes an industry-wide solution. So for your second question about other industries and whether or not it can go international, I'm doing a separate project that has similar technology in factories. So we're monitoring exactly how much a machine's being used, and it's pretty much the exact same tech we've introduced here. It's obviously machine learning about machines. And as well as internationally, we have a lot of collaborations and some partnerships in the industry. We're already starting to gather links in places like New York and Saudi Arabia for buses. And yeah, in those other industries, I'm sure they'll be international as well.
Okay, thanks.
Connor, thank you for your very excellent pitch, telling us about your company. What sort of IP or protection do you have? How easy would it be for someone to mimic or to copy what you've done?
So it seems that way when you first hear about it. I thought that for a long time. First of all, for the actual in-depth stuff, there's all NDAs covering me everywhere. But for the actual patent protection, the actual value isn't in the hardware and it isn't in the software, you know, because that's what other companies sells. But Root Reports sells solutions, so it's the actual combination of our hardware and software. So yeah, the hardware, it is pretty complex, but it's something that someone else could make. But it's the actual gathering of the use cases of these companies, like buses and trains. I've spent, you know, weeks sitting in a bus with a technician. I've spent weeks in their offices just figuring out exactly what they need. So it's not something that you could just copy the hardware for and instantly compete.
And you mentioned you are going live in a number of buses or expanding, and for that you'll need I guess, how many, do you need one of these hardware devices per bus or more than one? And how quickly can you scale that? Who made this, who manufactured this hardware? And are you speaking to any manufacturers?
So, so that one was made by myself. So that's pretty much almost the final version now. If we were to send that off to China, they could probably make it and make a very good, over thousands if you needed to. That's how it's all been designed. I've taken into consideration cost, size, and complexity when I've been designing it, and it's been made for manufacture. And to scale up, there's quite a lot of initial cost in getting the initial tooling done. So if we wanted to make those at large scales, that's why you need the good bit of money. And we have been talking to electronics manufacturing companies in the UK and have links to ones abroad. So.
Hey Connell, so probably a dumb question, but trains, how's it being used on the trains?
I can't say exactly, but it monitors the rails and also the suspension on the trains. And that way, Network Rail can know exactly where they have to repair parts of the rail, because it damages trains, obviously, if they go across a bit of railway that's damaged.
And when he says he can't say exactly, it's not because he doesn't know, it's because he's under NDA and confidentiality protection.
Okay.
Connell, sorry, it's very impressive what you've managed to achieve. And how do you scale up now, though? Because there's you, and then would you see bringing a team together to move this forward? And if so, what sort of people would you try to bring into the team?
So in terms of engineers that we'd get through the investment, it would be a machine learning and also UI UX, because obviously that's where our online value lies. And then also sort of a commercial lead or an account manager, because it's very important, these transport companies are massive and there's only so many of them, so you've got to make sure your relationships are really good. So that's sort of where we'd be focusing on to start with, I think, to begin the scale up.
So, and if you break down, is it £100,000 you're looking for?
Yes.
If you break that down, how do you spend that money over the next few months?
So that 40,000 is to, what I said, is to start building the hardware, get the tooling made, build stock levels, because as soon as they realize that, it's worked on 10 vehicles, they're going to want it for all 4,000. So that's where the 40,000 goes. And the 60,000 is then to get our talent, is to get those engineers and that account manager I told you about.
Have you already spoken to any potential, do you have anyone in mind, the fellow students that might be your account manager or engineers, or?
Not so far, no.
Okay. So I'm just trying to figure out, the paying customer is the bus, or the bus company in this case, because they want to preserve the life of the bus, and potholes and branches shorten their life. But when it comes to fixing the pothole, that's not the bus's job, right? That's the local council or whoever's responsible. And they may be well aware of where that pothole is, but they just don't fix it because either they don't have budget or they just don't care.
Yeah.
How is that addressed? Or with the bus, Yeah,
so that's a very good point. I wondered that myself. I had a meeting recently with Southampton City Council and their infrastructure provider, and we figured out that really it's not knowing where they are. By using our machine learning and because buses do the same routes every day, you get very good data. So by using that, we can then predict the growth of potholes and branches. So not just fixing the biggest one, they're able to tackle the ones that are the worst at the minute. So it's not that the council then has to work harder, it's just them working smarter. So the value there lies in that they'll then be paying me, because instead of having to get two guys to go around in a van every month around the whole city spotting potholes, they'll have a completely automatic and a much richer data source in my sensors.
Okay, would the council pay you as well for the advice of telling them where the problems are?
Yeah. So
who's the ultimate customer? As I say, the bus pays you because they want to preserve the buses from being hit by things. But do the council then pay you as well for telling them where to focus?
It's both. It depends. It's quite a regional thing. Some cities have different problems. So it's both. So the bus company, there's a whole lot of mechanical things and other information we give them that they want. And also it's a side effect of having those sensors on. They're a great vehicle to use to monitor these things, so that we can then sell that data to the council.
And sorry, just final question, but on the revenue model, can you give an indication of how much you're currently charging or plan to charge?
Yes.
And were these trials free initially that you've done as a test trial, or were they paying customers? And if so, how much did they pay?
So I have a paying customer in Hull that's got one bus fitted, and that sensor there actually, I'm sending to them next week. But they pay £80 per month per bus. and that's only for potholes and branches. That was a previous version. It's a monthly fee paid by the bus company, and then I also get paid by the local authorities and other companies who do data analysis based on APIs that I expose for them.
So what do you see as the revenue opportunity going forward?
So the addressable market is about 20 million per year, if you take into account the 35,000 buses in the UK. And then there is also the trains, which is a completely different model in the UK. So the revenue potential, I think in the next year, we could definitely get to 6 figures. So, between somewhere 100,000, 200,000, depending on exactly which features we enable for our bus companies. And then moving on, just sort of, it's quite easy to grow because there's only 4 or 5 main transport providers in the UK. So once you prove to them in one trial, it's very easy to scale up.
Just to understand better the actual product and how it works. So you've got that little box.
Yes.
Where does that go? And is it the same box that measures the battery and the tires or the mechanical functions that also measure the... sorry, that's linked to sensors, which are separate, I guess.
Yes. So there's that, and there's also very low power Bluetooth sensors. Those monitor branches, doors, and tires. Everything else in there is monitored, like it just monitors it itself. So battery voltages, there's an air quality sensor in there. A lot of cities want to do that. And other things like accelerometers, which measure your potholes.
So where does that box physically go?
Oh, sorry. That goes, on the front of the bus, above the windscreen, where it says your destination?
Yeah.
Just in behind there.
Got it, thank you.
It's a very compelling proposition, I think. Some wonderful answers. Hopefully you've still got banknotes spilling out of your back pockets. That's what I'm hoping. Still some on the table.
One last question from me, Connell, just on lead time for getting a bus company sold on the idea and signing on the bottom line. How long did it take to get Reading across the line?
Well, so the whole project started off as a Reading Buses request. So since then, we've just had a really good testing relationship with them, and further growth has been through pure word of mouth. I kind of get people chasing me down to use it. So then it's that we're on Monday we're pitching for a £50,000 deal with one of the major UK transport providers. It's something that they've never been able to get. So as soon as you tell them that it's possible, they run with it.
So, sorry. No.
So how long would you see a lead time then with a new customer from first intro meeting to doing a deal?
So the way it works in the transport industry is that you start off with a trial. So we can get a trial very quickly because it's usually just at quite low cost. So you start off with a route, and then you go to a city, and then if it's a regional transport provider, you'd go to a full region. Those step-ups, it depends a lot on the transport company. A few months between each, really, once we have the investment and are able to scale up our mass production.
Okay, so the question that I had, I was just trying to get my head around why you think it's worth £1 million. And you just said that the total market, the revenue, is, if I exclude trains, which was kind of anecdotic at this point in time, was like 20 million.
Yes.
Is that if you fix one of these to every single bus, is that 80 times?
So sorry, that was with our
12 times 35,000 or whatever.
That was with our existing features alone. So we have loads of other new features that we're trialing, but can't mention. Which brings in a lot more value. So you're not just getting paid by the bus company, you're getting paid by local authorities. That value I gave of 20 million was only from bus companies. You're getting paid by the local authorities, the people who use our APIs. So they can't get this data on transport from anywhere else. So they find a lot of value in the information we have to give. So yeah, the revenue potential is actually probably a good bit higher. That was a conservative number.
Okay.
And in terms of why we're worth $1 million at this stage is that we've got kind of incredible traction. We're on 5 buses right now, or travelling about cities in the UK with those on them, and we've got a whole lot more in the pipeline. We're pitching for a 50k deal that if it goes off, that's the first 6-month trial, will turn into massive amounts of revenue. And also the train industry, we're also breaking into trams now, which is another revenue stream. And that hardware is with very little adaptation can be put straight into freight. So you could monitor lorries all across the UK. I mean, we could put it in your car later on. It fits, it would work. And also factory monitoring. So, like, as I mentioned, it's another completely a whole other industry.
Because are you saying this is a bit like I'm probably going to be saying something pretty stupid. Are you saying that's like a generic sort of like a bundle of sensors that you could stick anywhere kind of thing? Because you say it measures, you know, vibration and altitude and air pressure and air quality and da 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 da. Is that what that is?
So yes, so that's completely custom designed.
Okay.
You can't buy something like that, which is
Right.
why I had to make it. And it's you could put it anywhere. It's the hardware itself is really just to get the value out of the web stuff.
Sure. Yeah, no, I understand
Yeah.
completely. But I was just kind of interested in the kind of range of, you know, parameters that you're sensing.
Sorry?
I was just kind of interested in what, you know, what you're sensing, what you're not sensing.
Oh, so that has you can actually stick a camera on it now because they want to do driver monitoring in trains and trams, and that would work if you put it on. It's a board that's designed across industries. So I designed it with trains, buses, trams in mind. It works with a very wide range of voltages. So yeah, it is something that we could.
Okay. Anyway, very good. And another question, because I haven't really come across this ever before. So you're sitting there saying that you'd like us to invest some money in your company, and then you're saying, but there's a load of stuff I can't tell you. So that's kind of that's built into the valuation. So you're saying, trust me, because I've got all this kind of secret stuff going on that I can't tell you about, but I'm going to charge you for it anyway.
I believe that without the secret stuff, it's still worth $1 million.
Okay. So you're saying we're getting fantastic deals. Okay.
And just to confirm, so in the notes that I gave you, there was some information of the secret stuff.
Okay. What's the... Okay.
So I just want to delve a bit deeper in the sort of how many buses, for example. So if you say there are how many 35k buses in the UK, I'm guessing that, as you said, the same bus goes the same trip all the time. So you get two cents. The feature of the potholes and the branches, you only need 1 or 2 buses on one route to actually you need 1 bus probably to identify them, but put it maybe on 2 or 3. But you certainly don't have to put it on all your buses doing the same trip, presumably.
So
and then the second value from your product, which I don't know, did you say that's already live or that's soon to be live, which is the extra monitoring, the mechanical monitoring?
Because that's something that at the minute in Reading, but the buses and the branches and potholes we're getting paid for. It's not the primary purpose of the board at all. It's just quite a niche usage that makes it's very tangible to see the value it has. So yeah, you do only need it on 10% of the fleet, but you need our unit on the whole fleet because the sensors, it's modular. So you can choose, I want to monitor the tires, doors on this one, maybe just branches on another one. So yeah.
So the hardware that you install is enabled to do all the monitoring,
Yes.
but you need to switch it on and pay for the extra features.
Yes.
And if someone is paying for 1 bus, £80 a month, let's say is the current value, and let's say bus company is happy with that, presumably if they say we want it on our whole fleet and we're going to get 1,000, they want a discount. And
yes.
in that sense, have you thought about what your burn rate is? So how much money you'll be spending if you have no revenue? That comes into how many of these units do you need to install to effectively cash break even?
So to go after the first part of your question, yes, there is a very good reason to have the unit in every bus. There's some features in it that haven't been seen before in the transport industry that I haven't mentioned yet. You can automatically count passengers, which is known as the holy grail of transport data, and we're one of the first companies to actually trial it. And then scaling up in terms of the burn rate, because the hardware and the software together, you can get them to pay a lot more than if it was just a hardware project. So it's actually surprisingly cheap to run, which means that our burn rate is actually quite low, and we could break even with, probably 30 or 40 buses with one bus company in terms of profit or whatever, or sunk costs, and then from there you've got the other 35,000.
How much is your burn rate then per month? Or will it be once you have so if you win this contract and you presumably need at least your engineer will start employing someone to help with business, how much do you anticipate the burn rate to be, the monthly amount of spend in salaries and operational costs and so on?
I think that this £100,000 investment would leave us in a year's time as a very established company, because what the £100,000 will do will put us into profit very quickly. The exact burn rate, I haven't calculated at the minute, But it's, yeah, I see a very clear path if once we get this money to actually make it big in the next year or so.
It's getting to that time again. I mean, we've just massively overrun the whole event. I apologise on that. But we know we have to let these things run their course. And this is the quality of student that this university creates. I just want to make that point, because, I mean, let's give him... It's all right, I'm just getting ready. Yeah.
How long does the 100K keep you going for?
I believe the 100K will bring us into profit pretty quickly. So the 100K is just to make sure that we have, you know, the ability. As soon as we make 100 units,
Okay.
we'll be able to make 1,000 more just off revenue alone.
So how much would kind of like, so 100K is the comfortable number. What's the less comfortable number? Let's say.
That's uncomfortable. Yeah, so we need about 40,000 for the mass productionizing of the product, and then the rest of that is obviously to expand our engineering capability, and it's something that, you know, you could reduce, but it would take longer for the product to get there, but it's
Sure.
still definitely survivable, around 80,000, I'd say.
Okay. And because it's a surprisingly low amount of money to be spending on engineering, it sounds to me, but you know, I don't know.
So at the start, it'd be on a freelance capacity.
Yeah.
So there's several tiny things that need to be finished first before we can. So once we have that, I've costed it out just to take us into profit with that engineering capability.
And what about, because I mean, this is the first, I think I'm correct in saying, this is the first kind of hardware project that
We did have one last year, actually.
No, but I was talking about today. And I remember last year, yeah. So, but I mean, I'm always a little bit nervous with hardware because, you know, you've got to get it built somewhere, it's got to work, it's got to be reliable, you know, the prototype comes in, doesn't work, and you lose, 2 months or whatever it is.
So I've already sort of gone through all the stresses of hardware, and we're now at the perfect point that we're ready to get going. And because there's also software too, if you know that's more what you're into. But
Sure.
yeah.
No, I know, but hardware always seems to be more. If you get it wrong, you take a bigger hit in your schedule. You know, you can't just say, I'll give you an update next week, kind of thing. You know.
Yeah. So that's maybe the 8th revision of the board that we've gone through now, with expanding more features every time, of course, but also just taking out the pain points that you're trying.
Because I think what my feeling is that the week. I mean, you clearly, remarkable talent. What you've done is amazing. It's a very niche thing, which personally I think is actually probably quite a good thing, because I can see that you could go into lots of other situations. Let's say, containers. I mean, I don't know what it is, freight, and blah blah blah. The weak thing in my mind is just you, versus you and somebody else who kind of yin yangs with you, if you will. And then the other thing is, you once again, you're early in your degree, and you've got to do that as well as to do this. So that's kind of what, I mean, I don't know whether everybody else agrees, but that's kind of what I feel. But at the same time, very exciting. I can see the heat map stuff. I have some businesses where we try and sell sophisticated kind of analytics to to companies, and you find that they're just not able to sort of digest it. You know,
Yeah.
it's just you're way ahead of their ability to actually use the incredible stuff that you can do. But it seems like you're actually delivering to the bus companies, real data that's actionable for them and that they need, which is quite interesting. And I can think of quite a few things to do with your little
Yeah.
gizmo there.
So,
sort of like Raspberry Pi kind of looks like something, but anyway, whatever.
So yeah, that's a very good point about that it's only me, and I'm in my first year of uni. Of course, suspension's always an option of my degree.
Well, you like the other guy. He was the guy with commitment.
Yeah. So your point's good that it's only me, but it's not really only me, because I've got collaborations and partnerships across the industry. That's how I'm winning these big contracts. That's how I'm able to, make a device as complex as this, and also get, advice from several people on how to scale it up. So I've basically networked a lot in the industry, which has led to our rapid growth.
The fact remains, though, that you are the brainchild and the driving force behind the business. And if you won the lottery tomorrow, then you might not be as keen to pursue this challenge. That's the positive way of saying if something negative happened to you, then obviously the business
You were trying not
disappears.
to use the bus reference, weren't you? There?
If you go under a bus tomorrow, Connell,
It would detect it.
Yeah, it'll be on the heat map.
okay, I'm happy to say where I'm at, and I'm probably going to kick myself in 5 years' time when I see you on the Forbes rich list as being the dumbest decision I ever made. But I'm going to declare myself reluctantly out, but I wish you every success. I think you're very impressive, and I think it's a cracking product, just not for me.
Connell, thank you for your presentation. I did enjoy it, and I do see value in your business. I think 1 million valuation post money is on the high side, and I think what you underestimate is whatever spreadsheet or projections people come up with. It's always too ambitious, and contracts take a bit longer, and then you run out of physical cash, and you'll need to raise more cash, and that's sort of a key concern for me. If you don't show progress between now and the next raise, and you want to raise ideally a higher number, and from what you said is it would last a year, the money, although you expect to get revenues, but put a haircut on that. So I'd be willing to invest 20,000, but it needs to be at a materially lower valuation.
Yeah.
So we need to discuss
That's
the
a
valuation.
great start. Andrew, what are you thinking?
Well, I feel the same way. I'd also be prepared to invest 20,000 at a materially lower valuation. I think the risks are about. We talked about the risk about you, and I think the other risk that Sonia points out about you having to raise more money, and you shouldn't underestimate the amount of time that takes as well, because you're going to be doing this plus signing new deals, plus raising more money, plus trying to bring on new team members and. So there's a risk associated with all of that.
Oh, yeah. Actually, well, I can put in some more money. It's sort of 40 whatever, but I'd kind of like to hear what
That's
you
a pretty
think,
good number.
what you think a materially better deal is. What
Can I just confirm right now? So we haven't agreed on valuation, but Sonia, you were saying that you're prepared to put in 20
At the right valuation.
at the right. Yeah, no, I got that. But Andrew, similar amount. Chris was saying maybe 40. That
Yeah.
would bring you to 80.
Yeah, what I put in might depend on what he says about valuation.
No. It's just because I might have a little card in my back pocket. Now this is a very unusual occurrence. Not even my team know about this. But so that would bring you 80. He's looking for 100. Now,
But I could do 60.
we do have. We do
If he
have.
becomes
Let me
sort of
have
a
my
good
little
deal.
moment.
Yeah, hold on a sec. I didn't
You've
know
got
about
FaceTime here.
We do have
Reuben.
someone. We do have someone on the end of the phone, right? Yeah, we'll pass the bucket around. No, we do have someone on the end of the phone. Actually, one of our other mentors, who said And we agreed if we got to a very, very specific situation where there was 20 left to put in to reach Connell's ask, then he would put 20 in at the same level as you. So, and if you come to a valuation that you think is interesting, then I've got him, he's waiting by his phone, he's signed his sophisticated investor, high net worth individual forms, and I can actually, in true deal, no deal style, I can dial him in and we can add him into this whole fray. So if you want to start talking about valuation, then we can start making that call.
I was thinking.
We have a proposition over here.
Okay. Well,
Well, let me put it to you first.
Okay, Connell, let's see if we have a deal. We were thinking, so if you get the full 100 for 30% instead of 10%.
Yeah.
You can take a bit of time if you like. This is new.
Okay. I have a counter offer. If I drop out, will you do it for 15%?
Drop out at university, I think, is what he's... I'm going to get in so much trouble for this.
I have to be honest, I'm a bit twisted in if I really would want you to do that.
I think it would give you a lot better value for your investment. And it's sort of where the business is heading, so...
And how would you see that? Would you give it a go for 12 months, and if it's not making money after 12 months, you drop us and you go back to the uni?
No, I'd do my best. Yeah, I'd make it make money.
So the way this has worked in the past is that, not that it's ever happened before, is that you can suspend for up to 2 years and rejoin your course.
Would you then consider 20, not 15?
20 sounds pretty good, yeah. I think.
Okay, now wait, so we haven't closed the deal yet. I've got to make this phone call. I've got to check because you might not be happy with 80,000. So, first time in the den, is this going to work? Ooh, I haven't got many bars of signal. This could go badly wrong. Bloody Apple phones, I don't know. Right, I'm calling him up. So we're saying it's 20, isn't it? 20%. 100,000. I have no idea if it's going to work.
Hi, Ruben.
Michael Gifford, this is Ruben Wilcock. I'm live on stage at the Future World's Dragons Den event. Please do not swear.
I'll try not to.
Good. So we have remarkably got to a position that we discussed, and there is we've got three dragons on the right of me. We've got Connell on the left of me. They're putting in 80,000. If you were to put in your 20,000, if you're still interested in that, then Connell has agreed that for the full 100, he would give up 20%. And suspend from his suspend from his studies to devote some serious time to it. What do you think about that valuation?
I think Connell's been driven hard by, it sounds like, three rather tough dragons, and that sounds good to me.
I think we've got a deal. All right, Michael, I'll give you a call afterwards, and I will introduce you to the dragons too. Thank you very much. Brilliant.
This afternoon. Thanks a lot.
Brilliant.
Cheers, Ruben. Bye.
Amazing.
Well done.